Portuguese, successful business people, Portuguese, Indians, Jewish, and Arabs, they are very deeply rooted in their traditions and their culture. They understand who they are as a people. And we don't understand who we are as a people. And yes, of course, colonization has played a incremental deadly role in erasing our identity as Africans, because otherwise we would not found ourselves being easily enslavable, and we would have not found ourselves as believers of everything else that is brought our way except believing in ourselves. Because even as Africans, we our mindset is like, I don't feel worthy enough in the business idea I have until somebody else outside of me, outside of my race, can validate it. We also see a lot of Black businesses that struggle until they get an endorsement from somebody else outside their race. Like we'd always say that, who are you supplying? If I know you're supplying white people, it means that you're an authentic and reliable business. You could understand some of those things and those implications of colonization, even though post-colonization, but we still see that, we see the systems and the structures that are supposed to be supporting small businesses. They give small businesses a much more hard time than they would give, to secure finance. They would ask you for collateral, but where would you get collateral? Because as a Black child, you have not inherited anything from anyone, because actually owning anything was prohibited for Black people in apartheid. We own land, they took it away from us. You own something that's an asset. So we need to understand those historical, that history, so that we can see where we are being dispositioned, but also where is our power spiritually, and how do we tap into our spiritual identity as Africans, so that we can be able to then, ascend, and we can able to climb up, and we can be able to make it in business. So like I'm saying, that I don't just want to speak about spirituality, but I want to speak about spirituality and how that fits into businesses, because that's very important, as a person, because I see myself as an entrepreneur as well, somewhat, because what I do is this work, is spiritual work. But it's because when we don't value the services that we are offering, because of what we've been told about ourselves and our identity, is nothing, like there's no worthiness and value in being Black. So everything that we try and do, we try to evaluate, or the only way we can see it as valuable is when it is, it is close to whiteness or close to westernization, because if it is African, then it is below, and we would complain buying something that is locally designed, locally made at a high price, but we don't mind paying high prices, for other luxury brands. Why can't we want to invest in, I was looking at somebody and I said, actually, even though it's not necessarily what I like in terms of design, I'm a closer, for example, I saw somebody's post saying it's quite pricey, and I said, I want to visit. Maybe there's something I can like, even though it's not, but just so that I can put my money into businesses, because my mindset is always, even when I source out something that has to do, I'm like, who is one that looks like me that does this first before I can source it out from somebody else? And of course, we don't have, and we are not also promoting each other enough as Africans to say, I got a service from small, business runway chick, and then she helped me, and now I'm able to grow my businesses. Take it, talk about you. We keep quiet. We don't do testimonials. We don't do references. So that is also like the psychology of colonization, about like, no, I don't want people to know where I'm getting, my spiritual help. So somebody won't tell you, hey, I'm starting to grow my business because I went to Gogo and Gogo helped me with this and this. And not necessarily that Gogo will give you the same amount of stuff as well, but just that you know where you can actually get help if you are stuck. I went to this person and they're good with IT because I'm stuck with the, with how I want. We need to be able to try create our own networks and start to refer and be unapologetic about that. But we also need to say Black First. You see the movement in the United States where it's really spreading wildfire about Black First, Black support Black businesses, but it's not always possible, because we do understand that also our auto response and how we've been conditioned and programmed is to go. I always forget, because I live in Midrand, but I always forget that there are street vendors in Cosmo City that sell tomatoes, potatoes. So sometimes I forget, and it's not to say if I've forgotten it, it means I'm not Black First. But when it comes to my awareness, let me do something about it. Let me put that first. And when I go there, let me not negotiate because I bought a cabbage, a carrot, and let me not negotiate. And we cannot say to them, we want it to be also a Woolworths quality. We understand that Woolworths has put a lot of money in actually making sure that they have high levels of storage, like their storage facilities are up to high standards. So you can't compete that. But what you are also guaranteed on the streets is that when you buy it, it means it's just fresh from the market. So there's a lot of things that as Africans that we need to understand psychologically what has happened to us when they moved us away from our spiritual identity. So isintu nobuntu bethu, when that was destroyed, then we all aspired to be everything else except ourselves. So everybody else is like, even in business, if you can, you can write something brilliant, but if it's not pitched in an eloquent, you're not articulating enough in language. And they'll say, I remember I had a fight when I used to stay in Cosmo City with I don't remember if it was a parent or was a teacher. My child used to go to the crash on the other side on the street and was saying, Mama Samu, you need to speak to Samu in English, and I'm like, no, I don't need to. Umntwana muzofunda isiZulu nespedi. They don't speak Spedi, but they speak Sesotho, which mixture of township Sotho version. Even Zulu is a mixture. And said, no, English is very important. I'm like, to who? And it is a business language, not where. In the UK it is, but in France, no. French is the business language. In Italy, Italian is. In Germany, they speak German. You have people who can't speak English. So it's because we always have felt we are less off until we climb up and become, because we were colonized by the British. So everything of us is English surrounded. Even how we think and how we operate has to be like that. So I wanted to bring that within the context of business so people can also understand, because we can't always be we can't always be speaking with it's just about not understanding Patha and doing that, but also understand the psychological impacts of colonization. Because when our colonizers tell us, like, let's get over it, we can't get over it, because it's still in our psyche. It runs in our pathologies as the I didn't live through colonization, but I have a I used to think like that. I used to be skeptical when I ordered something on somebody on Twitter, and I was scared after I paid. I'm like, ish, is this a Twitter scam? And I wonder if it was a white person, would I have asked myself that question? I need to be honest with myself and challenge my own stereotypes and challenge my own limitations, because if I don't do that, then I'm not going to change my perception.
So the conversation is quite deep. The conversation is quite complex, in a sense. We can't just say our people are struggling and this is what they're struggling with. This thing runs deep. It runs, family deep. It runs, it's generational, and it's all of that. We just can't believe that we can actually have profitable businesses that we can actually have influence and impact in the sense that I'm getting from you is that it's very, very deep for us, psychologically, And so I just wanted to also find out from you, Guti, like, okay, so right now the business of healing was, traditional face to face, right? But right now we are seeing a lot of healers like going online, giving us advice, giving us, the practical things to do day to day, like imfundiso zethu aziseko, like you have to go to somebody and actually, get that one-on-one. Now we are seeing all these things happening online. We can engage online. We can, speak about, African spirituality, and we can speak about healing even online. Is that something that's shunned upon? Like, is that like a no in terms of our culture and who we are, or is that something that we should be embracing and actually just accepting? Which, as in, now you can just Google a Gogo Dineo online, engage with her. You can be able to access these people that are teaching us spirituality on these social media or online platforms.
So I think for me, the gift of social media is that for teaching, enlightenment, education, and empowerment, it's a very useful tool. but also
Mm.
people cannot use that as an applicable, it's a tool that's used to shed knowledge, create understanding, create clarity. But if you
Yeah.
have a problem, you can't just
Yeah.
watch a doctor speaking about corona and think and self-diagnose, and
Yes.
self-prescribe,
Oh wow.
because that's very
Yeah.
dangerous. Because sometimes we don't really want to deal with the things that are troubling us, and we think by going online and googling Gogo Dineo and watching her, it's going to resolve my problem. Your problem is personal. So as a spiritual being having a human experience that is connected to other spiritual entities that are your ancestors, meaning your spirituality is complex. So for things to be
Yeah.
resolved, you need personal attention where the complexities can be dealt with, because healing is personal. Healing is not generic. I can heal you by motivating and inspiring you, but you might be experiencing something that requires a personal intervention. And that's why as a healer, I look at people as unique. I don't I struggle with just being generic. And even when I offer education and advice, I always say take it with a pinch of salt. Don't think it's a prescription or a diagnosis, because even you can come, because you've joined some of the streams. I come at night and I speak, and people come and they would say, Coco, I'm struggling with this. I will still say please seek professional help, because then you will be able to. How many things can you apply? Some things in concussion, they create chaos. That's why many
Mm.
meats, even in Sinto, you don't mix them. There's certain things don't go together, but you need a professional to be able to do that. Because with what is coming up, because now everybody is a teacher on Instagram. Because similar to business, we're
Yeah.
not all gifted the same way. You need to understand what your niche, your skill, and your talent and your passion is, right? In business. So similarly,
Yes.
as a spiritual healer, you also need to understand those things, because then you're gonna be able to be doing everything and that comes your way, but not really doing you. A concealer and you do it, but you didn't know that you've got skin sensitivities, and you apply it, the next thing in tumba instead of getting bros on fleek. I'm just saying, be very discerning. Do not just,
Yeah.
I don't like, even when I pick up things, I'm very careful. I rarely would tell somebody like this what I'm picking up about you. I'll ask, like, is it okay? And I don't save those personal deep things. If I'm gonna save them, I'm gonna tell you that I'm coming on the stream for educational purposes. So be willing,
Yeah.
because those
Yeah.
things are very, we can't, to educate and enlighten, it's okay, but you can't want now to
Yeah.
come on the stream and the next thing, same thing with me. The only thing about my business of spirituality that I haven't gotten to do, I don't go and put up people's feedback on my socials, because I want people to be
Mm.
spiritually guided, because there's a level of truth and integrity there, because we all can create beautiful stories and testimonials about people. Because the best way you can get the best services by word of mouth. When somebody says, I went there and I got a service. So I only do that
Yes.
system internally. So when patients come, we always ask them to rate the people that they are consulting and give us feedback as to improve our service, not only by picking, but also the, customer service we're offering. How are you treated? There's a lot of things we need to, because we are also demystifying the notion about consulting is scary, it's freaky, you're going to be too, we want to actually humanize this thing
Yeah.
that has been demonized as well. So for me, there's a lot of things that we need to be, let's be very excited, because that's what they told. I mean, when I look at my Instagram page and I'm like, wow, you're 70 something thousand followers as a Sangoma, that's very impressive, right? And I'm
Yeah.
grateful for
Yeah.
that. Then it means that for me, then I have to be very careful all the time. What am I teaching? What am I telling? So that I don't get carried
Mm.
away by the numbers, that I end up doing things extremes just so that I can keep up with the trend. Because this teachings,
Yes.
this is a trend. Corona has birthed a trend, but this trend will
Yeah.
pass. But will you still remain relevant as a healer? Will you still remain relevant as a business post-corona? Because you can't do things because now
Yes.
it's trending. You need to do things because it's connected to your essence. It is connected to your
Yes.
purpose. It is connected to your passion. Don't do it because everybody's doing it. That's how you find your niche. Even in business, you can't be like, now everybody's making masks. Yes, they say in the business,
Now,
look for an
yeah.
opportunity and then seize it. But that opportunity, then what happens afterwards? You can add it on as a side on, but it might distract you from the bigger picture of doing your core business. So I'm saying that's why I'm actually quite impressed with myself that I didn't know I was so business minded until I had this conversation with you.
No, you are absolutely business minded. Okay, no, that's interesting though. And I want to almost watch and I almost want to because I'm very observant, right? I'm also a person that watches and follows people for a while before I actually, engage or talk or say anything. Because just being in a when you're observant, you see some things and you're able to watch things from a distance, and you watch things for what they are, I believe, and so when I approached you, Gogo Dineo, I realized that you are in your space and you are, you're teaching and you are teaching and you are healing some people. I mean, let me just speak of myself. Let me not speak of people, but it's like it's almost like there has to be some kind of, it's like we will listen to Gogo Dineo because she has got that 73 thousand followers, but it's like sometimes I just get the sense of like we shouldn't be following trends, or we shouldn't be following people because of their following, and what just their following. We should be following genuine people that we relate to, genuine people that we find some kind of common interest or some kind of value in their teachings. But I'd like to argue that a lot of us just want to follow people because it's people. We just want to follow, and we just jump into so many things, like because this is happening, this is the trend, okay, let me jump on this trend, and then tomorrow or next week something else is going on, and then we are also focused on something else next week because it's another trend or another something to follow.
Because we don't know
And
who we
so
are. We don't know who we are. If you
yeah,
don't
so
know
I
yourself,
want,
you're gonna fall
yes,
for everything and stand for nothing. You don't know who you
yeah,
are. If you don't know who you are,
yeah,
you're gonna be blown by the wind from different directions. One of my famous quotes is that a
yeah,
people that is not deeply rooted in their African ancestry, who
yeah,
are deeply rooted have an ability to thrive, meaning that if you don't, whatever direction the wind blows you, you will go. And that goes
yes,
apply to small businesses. And I'll say to entrepreneurs, have you partnered
yeah,
and asked the ancestor, have you gotten divine guidance to actually go and venture into that business? Do you know who are the people in your lineage who were successful business people, even if it was cattle, even if it was whatever, even if it was
yeah,
at the street corner? By connecting to that
yeah,
energy field, you are connecting to a brilliant entrepreneur mind, meaning that together with your
yes,
own brilliant mind, you can actually leverage and make your business a success. Because there's people who come and consult, and I say to them, but you are not, and I said, but why are you working? Because your people never worked. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Yes, go. I'm like, your fear
yeah,
of taking risk. And I say, there's this ancestor who's doing this, and you are not making money in your business because you have not invited them in the business. So that's the spirituality of
yeah,
business. Invite an army of warriors. Your ancestors are sitting next to the throne of God. So if you're not
yes,
inviting that power to intervene and intercede on your behalf, then you are going to say, I'm not succeeding. You are not succeeding because you're doing it alone. With an army, you can
yeah,
actually flourish and thrive. So today I just had a consultation. I did a follow-up. I've not seen the people for a while, and we can't, because
yeah,
with the institute, our treatments expire after 3 months because we don't know what has
yeah,
happened. 3 months, it's a long time, 60 days. And this lady
yeah,
gave me such powerful feedback. I haven't touched it. I just told her to go look for her father and do this, and then I'll see her. And then she found her father. But the magic that happened, and when she left, I
yeah,
parted. I said, thank you, Bokoko Nabomkulu, for the gift you have
yeah,
given me as a vessel. May you continue to
Yeah.
do amazing and remarkable work. May each soul that touches this, that comes and lands in your space, may you bless them with their desires and wishes. It does not always have to be
Yes.
about umuti and giving. Muti is also energy. Similarly with money, we as people who are afraid of money, as spiritual healers, we think no. Or people don't want to embrace spiritual things like, hey, manje saying invite my grandmother who was a but she was successful at it. And we're
Yeah.
inviting and saying, in 2020, Gogo, we are opening franchise Zamakwinya. So this is the bigger plan now. I am turning Amakwinya into something else. By inviting that ancestral spirit, you are inviting a force. Give acknowledgement and appreciation. And I always say, oh, party, that's why your business is not succeeding. Because you can get the brilliant idea and you can be, but you are not actually inviting the right kinds of energies, because we understand that energy is very important. Money is energy. So if you're always worried about money and you are holding money and you're not investing it, so it's a lot of things, because people always think spiritual things have to do with poverty. But that's a
Yes.
false notion of things, and that's why we're seeing a booming of prosperity churches, because again, everybody's seeing an opportunity. Even in the space of healers, there are healers who DM people and promise them things. I'll make you money, I'll do that. Because when people don't know themselves, they will fall for everything. They suck up on people's
Yeah.
vulnerabilities and stuff. If you know yourself and you know that you are working in light and in ancestral, you know that light does not happen. It needs to take dark has to okay.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that cycle has to end before light comes. So you don't want to cut the darkness, because everything has got its place, its time, and it's got a purpose in which it's serving. So it's very
Yeah.
important, it's very important for people to understand those things. And I'm hoping for the entrepreneurs that are tuning in also
Yeah.
understand that sometimes you're not succeeding not because you're brilliant. It's because you alone cannot make it happen. Who have you invited? Bagamadonsela. Have you invited them
Yes.
in the business that you're doing? Have you connected to
Yeah.
the woman or the man who was doing what you are doing right now, even though it was different back then? Are you even in the
Yeah.
right kinds of business? Because you might want to be doing masks because it's what is trending right now. But your ancestors have bigger plans for you. They can see 20 years from now what's going to have longevity in the business market.
Yeah. Wow. And so, I mean, there's no question. So then how important is it, Gogo, ukuthi we should be, in tune with who we are? How important is it that we should be in tune with our ancestors, the people that are guiding us, abantu abadala? Then, I mean, how important is it that we should actually be in tune with our people?
It's not important, it's non-negotiable. If you're a spiritual being having a human experience, how then are you not going to feed your spirit, but you're expecting it to manifest things for you?
Yeah.
Because if you don't feed it, it dies. And if it dies, there's no life. So you're just a walking dead. Your body's alive, but you're dead. So if you're not feeding
Yeah.
that very essence of who you are, how do you then expect the
Wow.
essence of who you are to serve you?
Yeah. You okay? So I'm almost scared, girl. Because let me be honest with you, girl. Like, in my ancestors, my parents, everybody has embraced our African culture. But our generation, like, let's just be honest here for a second. Our generation is like, it's not business as usual. It's not business as usual. We are looking for some kind of, I don't know, messiah or some kind of person, or something to come along and like almost wake us up, into what we should be doing.
But you're
But
also
it's
the
like,
generation, sorry for interrupting. You're also the generation
no,
that
that's
has not been
fine.
taught. You are the generation that has not been taught to end things, but a generation
Mm,
that's been taught to be entitled to things. That's why you'll
yeah,
always be waiting for the Messiah. Because you're the generation that also found
yeah,
us in the thick of religion, where we are waiting for Jesus to come back from the dead. I mean, Guni is simply,
yeah.
you
Yo,
know, you know what I'm saying. So for me,
go.
it's also, we can look and point fingers at us, but the
Oh,
rest of it is also pointing at those who have raised us, because then we grew up being entitled. That entitlement is a problem.
yeah.
I grew up not waiting I mean, of course, it doesn't mean I didn't grow up in the Jesus era. I did later on in my teens, you know. But I remember when I
Yeah.
was very little, I don't remember ever waiting for a social grant or for government. I don't remember those things. My grandfather
Ah.
told me to go fish, didn't give me the fish. My grandfather told we're gonna be self-sustaining. We had a small garden. We had a
Mm.
lot of things. We provided for our own food and our own resources. And I didn't leave growing up I thinking I was poor. It's only when TV came into my mind and I was shown a plate that had something else and a plate that had Kellogg's cornflakes. And I thought, because the contrast advertising was to tell us that is a rich life and this is a poor life. When
Yeah.
nonsense was started to be fed in my mind and not understanding actually Guti, long togo wamabele, this sorghum porridge is actually more nutritious than the Kellogg's cornflakes. I'm just saying, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of things
Yeah.
that we can look at as a people that we need to do away with in order for us to come right. But also it's
Yeah.
about starting with the basics. Qala phansi, ne? And uqala phansi
Yeah.
kuba phansi. Isn't that interesting? Qala phansi, yonke into ikhula phansi, sithi aba
Ukula pan.
phansi. Yonke into
Oh.
kuqa phansi, ukhulume nabaphansi, uqale phansi, utshale phansi, so that you can be able
Oh.
to grow again. Because sikhule
Yeah.
sesila sesimele lo ukuthi mina I'm just waiting, I'm saved, I'm waiting for. I'm using that analogy not to criticize, but that's the mentality of the Messiah.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, we don't
Yeah.
able to do it for myself. Mina, I grew up, I never depended on my parents. So when I look at my life and how I've also made it as a healer, is because I've always been a hustler. I never waited for
Yeah.
anyone. I followed actually spirit. I think Guti, no, the only thing the reason I can't run a profitable, successful business, Guti, cool. I can't
Oh.
separate business and personal, you know, like I might never patale or it's fine, it's okay.
Next
You know,
week.
I've got those
Yeah.
tendencies. I think it's the healer in me, you know,
Yeah.
that has those things. So because I know even when I was selling, I started selling in primary school. You know,
Yeah.
my mother was a domestic worker at the time, and I
Uh-huh.
only got a backpack when I was in the second term of school. I always carried my bags in a plastic bag. I never got my books covered because my mother couldn't afford those things, right? And and
Yeah.
and 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 my mother
Yeah.
couldn't afford. Sometimes we wouldn't have scarf so I wouldn't wait for my mother to make a plan. I made a plan. I saw an opportunity. I sold sweets. Yes, even in high school, I was
Oh.
made a mockery. In high school, I was called all sorts of names. I used
Yeah.
to sell sweets and during lunchtime. And remember, it's high school, girl. It is high school. But
It's that, yeah, it's that time.
instead of using to
Yes.
look during break time, I worked for Umamo Tengsi plate so I can get a plate of food. And I knew that my lunch was covered every day. And two, being a laughing
Wow.
stock of my peers, but all I knew,
Yeah.
the goal in mind is I didn't want to have four babies. I didn't want a banana, orange, pumpkin. I didn't want that because I knew that either I'm going to fall through the cracks of poverty. So gifted or not gifted. And that's why I said to
Yeah.
myself, I cannot use the calling as an excuse not to succeed. The calling is what
Mm.
gave me a trajectory to be a better person in my life. So when I got
Yeah.
called, it pushed me to live outside the confines of the walls of Alexandra Township. I'm not
Yeah.
halfway through what I want to be and what I want to do. You know why? Because I've got 100 years to live. Bang jele ganjalo. Hey, which I'm
Oh.
going to live 100 years. So I'm not even half those years. I know that
Hey.
next year my life truly begins. And that's when God and the ancestors are going to elevate me in this work. And I'm going to turn spirituality into something that Africa and the world has never seen before. That's what I'm called for.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, Tawaza Gogo. Yo, I am almost afraid. Just engaging with you. But okay, Gogo Dineo, can you just take us then through like, okay, Ubungoma and being called, right? Because obviously it has to be a certain we're not all of us are called, right? And also not all of us have a gift and a particular kind of gift that you have, right? Okay, let's quickly just touch up on the fact that right manje in society mangiyobona ugogo Dineo ngiyagula angikho right as a person in business ngiyahamba ngiyobona ugogo Dineo is that something that's shunned upon? Is that firstly legal? Like, can I get like a doctor's note to say ngihambile ngayobona ugogo Dineo, or is that still like a taboo in our, the corporate world, where it's like, like, it's not recognized which you want to you must see, professional doctor, that kind of thing.
As if a service we offer is not professional. In our very own
Exactly.
confidence, we still
Yes.
want to make it secondary and an alternative. But first of all, let me
Yes.
say we are all called. That's why we are on this planet. Because
Yeah.
girl would have not manifested if we didn't have a calling. But few are chosen
Wow.
for particular things. So even in business is a calling. Even in the arts, it's a calling. Because people who execute
Yes.
their work very well and succeed is because they are staying in their lane and they're slaying in it. That's one of my other quotes. So we are all
Yes.
called, but we're all chosen for few lanes because Sizwenzi traffic if we are all trying to squeeze on one lane.
In
That's why there are
one,
many
yes.
routes to Cape Town, right? There are different kinds of flights to Cape Town. It's SAA, Kulula, it's Mango, now it's SA Play. So you don't know. Don't try and be SAA. Maybe you are Mango. That's
Yes.
why
Yes.
knowing thyself is very important, so you can know what is it that you are being called to do and called to be. Because some people, they can trust, but they're trusting to be reminded of the rituals and imiti by sebenzisa Google Ekaya for business, because there are people who have
Yes.
ways.
Yeah.
So it's very important for people to know that, yes, legally, traditional healers notes are legal documents of saying, yes, I've been and I've seen if they don't do it, it's illegal by the company. But I know corporate space, because we have people who still demonize and corporate is still very Western. It functions within Western systems, and we also understand the
Yeah.
structural racism that exists in those systems. Corporate is one of the most racist structures we have in the country still. So they would
Yeah.
want to get away with, no, it's not, but it is. It's a letter. I've written a lot of letters, even when people come for in-house patient, because we've got treatments that are in-house. They come, we do
Yeah.
write letters to say this person has come and that it has to be
Yeah.
taken away from their sick leave. I would want it to
Mm.
be nothing where one needs to explain, because
Yeah.
sometimes you need to
Yeah.
explain. If you say you've been to a
Yeah.
sangoma, you can lie to say you've been to a doctor. A doctor can fake a doctor's note. So why, when it
Yes.
comes to our own things, we always have to question? Again, it goes back to what I said to you earlier on about the colonial minds that we have about anything that's associated with blackness. It's beneath.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why I'm asking, because it's like I'm trying to get a sense of, are we as business, are we as people moving in the direction where we accept ourselves now? Like, can we get with the program? Like, if I'm going to see, Gogo Dineo, I can't be questioned about it. I can't be, embarrassed. I can't be like this whole notion of, like, we can't. We need to be able to embrace who we are and go and consult and see as we see fit. Because yinto esiphilisayo thina as African people, asikho one-sided where we're like, oh, let's tell umuthi. No, I mean, our people are dynamic. Our people are okay. So now, Gogo Dineo, just get us together now. Like, just like get us together, because, and again, I will speak for myself, because I don't assume that everybody's like this, but I, as a business person, I have the experience of knowing that a lot of us, we've got this notion of just like, sizo, okay, I'll put it like this, right? Ngizoyenza ibhizinisi because ubani bani uyayenza next door, nobani bani omunye futhi uyayenza. So we tend to copy a lot. Siyakopa, we are not ourselves, we're not in our lane, we copy, we are jealous, we want to put omunye umuntu down, just to get ourselves ahead. In this, in our African culture, there's a lot of like, you just can't be great at what you do and just be, the person that you are. There's a lot of copying, there's a lot of putting down, there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of angifuni omunye umuntu aphumelele because kumele kube yimi, in my family or in my
No,
in
but
my
it's that
circle of
whole
friends.
thing. I'm sure we all are
Yeah.
aspiring for the top of the pyramid, which is this white god and white this, So and
Yeah.
how we've been celebrated as, even when slaves, there were slaves on the field and the slaves in the house. When you made it as the slave house, you get some kind of
Yeah.
recognition. So we need to do away
Yeah.
with those conditionings and those colonial mindsets, because they really are killing us
Yeah.
as Black people, because we need to understand the
Yeah.
intention was to divide us anyway. So division, divide
Yeah.
and conquer still runs with us, where we are competing for a very small market. Or even if the
Yeah.
why Gogo Dineo are successful, how to man? Because we don't believe we
Yeah.
can work hard. You know, I say to people,
Yes.
work hard, because I work hard. I work hard for you know, like I said before I come on the stream, I did a little bit of reading around business and stuff, and that's why I can have a business language and I can get into so many platforms. Is because I invest in my work as a healer, right? So people
Yes.
don't want to invest because I understand who am I, what is my calling, to be an African spiritual
Yeah.
teacher. So to be a teacher, I need to always be a student. So I need to be willing to learn. I need to be willing to, you know, I need to be willing to go to, I've done a bit of entrepreneurship classes there and then. So I need to be willing to grasp and fill in my cup and my toolbox so I can execute my function very well. And that's
Mm.
the thing. And you're right, we need to stop being I am scared about talking. I remember when Somizi had me on Vuzu and they said Gogo Dineo, my spiritual healer. I'm like, Somizi, just say my sangoma. We beg a plain and simple. Yeah, but sing I fancy because manje is like spiritual. And you know, he said, oh, who's my
Yeah.
sangoma? So we're talking about it, but I'm just saying. And I remember speaking to my friend in the UK who's he's Black, but he's born in Jamaica and lives in the UK, and said to me, I want you,
Yeah.
Gogo, to use the terms. Don't try and find an English version, right? So that's on my Instagram page. It will say Sangoma, an African
Yes.
spiritual healer, so that we can make these words trend and actually input in our minds that it is okay to
Yes.
be one, it's okay to see one, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. Because those are the things that were demonized and taken away from us. So we need to reclaim them and own them unapologetically. So you need to
Mm.
go, I get an appointment. I've got an appointment, no Gogo Dineo. Who's Gogo Dineo? I my
Yes.
sangoma. I need to go check some spiritual things. So what if you're
Yeah.
using Muti? You are activating. Who said other races don't? They use a lot of things. That's why they can be able to
True.
succeed, because they know. Have you went into an Indian shop? Bashisinto zabo. Unapologetically,
Yeah.
they don't ask you for permission as a customer. Which, is it okay for me to burn my incense? Is it okay? Is it smelling? What if you don't like it? Go next door. But they burn their things. They've got their
Yeah.
statues there. Izinto zabo and their things there.
Yes. Yes.
So why should you say, excuse me, monugimpe? Bopahla, uzemitini,
Yeah.
serious. You know,
Yeah.
why fanele
Yeah.
ube nentuzana mawuhlafuna umlomo omnandi, so that your presentation, you can, why should you be apologetic about that? You're not doing anything against anyone. That's witchcraft.
Yeah.
You're doing something to elevate yourself. You're doing something to expand yourself. You are magnifying your light, girl. So you better.
Yes. Yes. You better. You better. Oh no, I like that. I like that. Yo, manje Gogo Dineo in business ge, like siyasaba ge, or ayasabi. Like sisayenza, like izinto zethu zisase underground. Like
Nisaba ukuthi bazothintwele, but also people have to be
siyasaba.
careful.
Yes,
No,
bazothi
because the
yo
thing is,
siyaloya. Sifuna ama customer or sifuna
yes, you're
whatever.
right,
Like
mamela, chela,
mm,
shisa, ubiza ama-customer and offer
yeah.
the service that you are offering. Already
Yes.
elevate what already exists. You can't be
Mm,
visa my customer. Don't manipulate things. Don't use witchcraft. The minute you're imposing upon other, but to bring a good aura. You know, aura is everything.
mm,
Mina at the institute,
mm.
but I don't pen things to bring customers, because for me, it's still, the spirituality of business is more complex than a normal business operation, because I need to
Yeah.
also make sure that labantu abafigayo that are attracted here, that there can be a spiritual relationship and synergy between me and their ancestors, so that we can then manifest the physical things that they're needing in their lives. So I don't have a Gogo Dineo, but I don't know, because spirituality, you never say for sure. I don't know. 10 years from now, Zubana saying my advertising with TV. Do you want to get some spiritual help? Are you getting headaches? Are you having battle? Do you get panic attacks? Your woman is Gogo Dineo. I don't know. Maybe I will go there. But for now, this is what I know. I work
Yeah,
with
yeah.
energy, and I send energy out there, and I let people know, because I don't fully advertise. You've seen my Instagram page. I know go to for
Yes.
consultations. Right? I've
Yeah.
been at this work for 10 years, but I'm not saying go to tomorrow when I do it, then wow, go. Hey, mina ngeke
Yeah.
ungiconfirm. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So I'm forever evolving and forever changing. You know, that's why I
Yeah.
will also not tell you when somebody says, what's your taste? What's your style? I struggle. I live in the moment, in the now, in
Yeah.
this time and this moment. This is what is happening. But who I
Yeah.
am, that I know that I am, and that will never change, is that I'm a
Yes.
black child full of melanin. And that's what I radiate. Because in this lifetime, I've come as black. And as black, I need to do what is
Yes.
black to get me to black greatness. Because if I
Woo!
don't fit this black skin, the nutrients that this black skin and spirit needs, it will not yield the results that I'm seeking in the world. So that's what I know for sure, and it won't change. In the 100 years I've been given now, that will not
Yeah.
change. And
Yes.
I'm going to do whatever it needs to be done to feed black so that black can actually radiate its black greatness, because black is great.
Woo!
It is the only color that does not get absorbed or changed by
Woo!
any other thing. So we need to understand the power of melanin.
Yes. Yes.
Feed that
Yes.
melanin.
Woo! Preach! Preach, Gogo. Oh my gosh. Whew. Okay, so I'm quite fulfilled and I'm so happy about this conversation. And I just want to say to everybody that's watching, if you do have a question for Gogo Dineo, we have her for the next few minutes. Can you please just drop your questions, drop your comments? We would love to hear from you. Gogo Dineo, it is such an honor to have you, because I think for me, it's important to have this conversation, you know? I am one person. I do not want to shy away from my African being. I am not even pretentious about who I am,
Yeah.
and the contribution that I want to make in this world. So it's important for me to actually bring in, your the caliber of your people, like when to give us the knowledge, because we talk in our corners, we talk in our little circles, and we all make our own conclusions. But it's like we need you to get us together. We need you to help us to start thinking about things differently, and and also just to affirm, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with being who we are, because we are amazing, we are dynamic, sabantu sisintu, and sabantu aba, like there's so many things that I can actually say about this, and there's nothing wrong. And I mean, I'm learning to live in my light, to live in my greatness, and to live in my purpose, as a black African child. I'm so proud. And I'm happy that we're having this conversation. So thank you so much again for, joining us. But now also, can you just, while I'm just waiting for some comments to come through, like, can you just give us the backstory? I would normally ask you this in the beginning, Guti. Okay, Ukoko Dineo, where does she come from? Ubani, what made you who you are today? But I just want to throw this in today, Gangane, like now, just so that we understand, Guti. You were not born. Okay, of course you were born, as who you are, but like, sometimes Sibona, the glory, the amazing person that we see today, but we don't know the struggles, we don't know the backstory, we don't know, Uguti, what brought you to where you are today. So I
Yeah.
want to just, bring that to light, Uguti. So you start, where do you come from? Who is Gogo Dineo? Where did you start with your journey?
So I was born and bred in the dusty golden roads of Gomorrah, Alexandra Township. And I
Wow.
was, yeah, and I'm the first grandchild, and I was raised by my maternal grandparents with the support of my paternal grandmother. And,
Yeah.
I grew up in a kind of mixed, like blended family, because my grandmother's kind of Indian, kind of colored, then became black because, you know what happens when you're very light skinned and you are
When
in the
you
township, and auna memezi,
you
auna
just
bovu, you
yes,
become black. Melanin
yes.
starts, you get a lot of vitamin D. So I grew up there. I grew up in the township. I went to school in Alexandra till I was in grade 11. Then I got an academic scholarship, and I went to like I said, I never knew poverty until I started seeing the contrast between Sandton and Alexandra. Then I understood that something was not right. But I never grew up feeling discontent about who I am. I think the discontentment came when there was this comparison, when I started going to this school and I continuously was fed, this is amazing, this is the life, this is that. But when I started to see the contrast, that's when I knew that I don't want my life to end in Alex. But Alex made me, because I'm tough, I'm resilient, I'm a fighter, I'm a warrior, I'm a survivor, because I grew in the turbulent times, as we were moving out of apartheid, because I was born in 81. So as we were moving out of apartheid, then I so I've been through that, and I didn't grow up, yeah, like nobody knows like who's Ramalepe. Mara ke Ramalepe nna ke setori sa Matebele, ke Mokhashapula, ke Mokaranga, ke Mochochonono. Ba bopeng ngolo songolo lo dabazana ngwane. So those, but my grandfather, the wisdom I have, I strongly believe comes from my grandfather. My grandfather was one of the wisest men. He spoke eloquent English, and he didn't go to school because he had to drop out of school to take care of his siblings when his father took a second wife. And he took all his siblings to school, and he was just a laborer. But one thing that was incredible, my grandfather never spoke of I love you, but love was action for him. And when I think of him, I just feel love, because he left his job to take care of my uncle. My uncle at the time was sick, and he took care of our uncle, and he never questioned anything. Like, my grandfather was an expression of love. And my grandfather taught me a lot of the principles and Ubuntu that I have. It's because of him. He always told me, never pass anybody without greeting. Always be kind, because you never know when you need to go back to that bridge. Don't burn your bridges. So he died when I was 12. He died when I was very young, and that really shattered me. And it's so interesting, because when I was speaking to my life coach a few months ago, because I'm dealing with some inner child wounds and stuff, I realized that at 12 my grandfather died. At 12 I had my first, I got sexually assaulted, I got molested at 12. So a lot of things happened at 12. It means that my awakening into being who I was meant to be started at 12. 12, 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 is a divine number, beginning, middle, and end. So my divine shift, even though at the time I experienced it, it was suffering, but it was an awakening, because then it took me on a path of seeking what God and who God was. And yes, I became a Christian, and that really offered me a home and solitude for some time, but it kept on demonizing and shunning away from who I was. One of my awakening moments again with Christianity is when I couldn't speak to my grandfather, and he was called the demon, and I struggled because that man made me the